So the Miami Heat post Jimmy Butler trade are not very good, which I don't think is a massive surprise, but I do think is at least a little bit of a surprise. It's not really what I expected the outcome of the rest of the season to be for the Heat. And I mean, to be fair, 56 games, they got 26 left to go. Things could turn around, but over their past, 7-8 games, things just haven't looked good. This is not a team that is playing good basketball really on either end of the court. Offensively, they've been just pretty bad. Tonight, they lose to a Hawks team that isn't great and has struggled as well post losing Jalen Johnson. Also did not have several rotation guys tonight. Obviously, Jalen Johnson, but a couple other guys as well. And just like in general, this team has gotten worse, you know what I mean, overall, since the deadline and since all these injuries and stuff. And I just think realistically that this team is a little bit, I don't know. I feel like they're a little bit underrated or a little bit overrated at this point. They're just not, offensively, they're not good enough. Defensively, they're not good enough, especially offensively. It just has not been a good roster as of late. And sure, some guys are missing some games, but I don't think it's crucial enough to where this should be impacting them like this. I mean, they had pretty much their entire rotation tonight except for Terry Rozier. And like, I guess Haywood Highsmith was in the rotation, but he's not right now. And Jovic has been in the rotation, but it's just generally speaking, they weren't like super duper shorthanded tonight. Alec Burks is 1 for 12, minus 13. Andrew Wiggins, a pretty efficient 23 points, but minus 17. Bam Adebayo, 5 of 13, minus 15. Tyler Hero, 4 of 19, 0 of 9 from 3, 11 points. Khalil Ware, for all of the success he's had as a rookie and how good of a player it looks like he will be for a long time, isn't like out here dominating, at least not every single night. And I just, as a whole, I don't look at this team and wind up extremely impressed. And I kind of wish I did, but as of right now, I don't. They're just not that good, to be totally honest. Like, they're pretty bad. And you look at the standings, they're 9th in standings right now, 20 and a half games back, but more importantly, 5 games back now of the getting out of the play-in. They are going to be a play-in team at this point if they make it at all. And like, they're just in a spot where they're not good enough. And I don't know if they're going to all of a sudden become good enough. I personally would lean towards no at this point. I don't think they look like a threat. And you wondered about Miami Heat Voodoo Magic. I just think it's over. They don't have that anymore with this iteration of the roster. Now, they do still have building blocks with Hero and Adebayo and Khalil Ware, but overall, the regression of Bam Adebayo throughout this year has not been great. He's only 51%, 51.5%-ish from 2-point range. Has tried to shoot the 3-ball more this year, but he's only 30%. Now, he was below 30%, so it's an improvement, but still only averaging about 17 and 10, which is very good, but not for the guy who's supposed to be the second best player on your team. Andrew Wiggins hasn't been efficient since joining the Heat. He's averaging 17 a game, but on pretty bad efficiency, especially from 3, but really from 2-point range as well. Just not efficient overall. Davion Mitchell has actually shot the 3-ball really well since joining the Heat. Now, he's the type of guy who I feel like fits Heat culture and has the ability to be a really good player in the future. If he can ever just shoot the 3-ball with consistency, which right now he's been doing at a high level. If he can sustain that, then there's a lot of promise for, I think, the development of his career still, with how much of a dog he is defensively and the fact that I think he fits the culture here. But Tyler Hero has honestly struggled recently, like a lot. He was shooting over 40% from 3, averaging like 25 a game, and I think the numbers have slipped as a whole as of late. Just has not been as efficient, especially from behind the line, and has struggled a lot. And the team as a whole has struggled a lot. For the season, it's not good. They're 8th worst, 9th worst in offensive rating, and then defensive rating wise, they're good. They're 10th best, but like not great. A negative 1.1 net rating, which puts them right outside the bottom 10, like the 13th worst team in basketball for the season. But the biggest issue is their last 7 games. Oh my gosh, they're 1-6. They have a defensive rating of 113.5, which is like 14th worst in basketball. Not too insane, but the offensive rating is 104.3, which puts them only better than the Charlotte Hornets, who have been kind of, for the most part, a dysfunctional disaster over the past couple of weeks, really the last couple of months, years, decades, whatever you want to say. But that gives them a net rating of a negative 9.2, putting them as the 4th worst team in basketball in the last 7 games. Look, call it a slump if you want. The honest truth is, I just don't think this team is very good. And I don't look at this roster that they have assembled right now, and I don't think they have the depth or the top end talent to be a serious competitor, even if they do make the playoffs. And look, the schedule sets up decently well for them. I mean, they just lost to Atlanta, but maybe they'll beat Atlanta this next time. Tough games for sure, but you get games like Washington and Chicago and Charlotte, and I'm Charlotte again, Atlanta again, some decently bad teams. Philly a couple times who's really struggling and very well might have shut it down. And at the end of the season, 3 terrible teams in Chicago, New Orleans, and Washington. So there is an opportunity here to maybe go on a little bit of a run and win some games against bad teams, and hopefully a couple games against good teams, and maybe close the season, I don't know, 15-11 in their last 26 games or so, and give themselves a chance to be around 500 for the year. But still, around 500 is not going to get them the 6th seed. Around 500 will at best get them the 7th seed. And while I do think they have the chance to make the playoffs still, this just does not feel like a team that is whatsoever equipped to compete with the Cleveland Cavaliers, the Boston Celtics, a team like that in the first round, which is exactly those are the 2 teams that they're going to have to play one of if they do make the playoffs coming out of the play-in. So they just don't feel scary at all. And the honest truth is, like, I talk about the top end talent not being great. Heroes struggled lately. Bam Adebayo has been disappointing. Kel'el Ware is extremely talented, but is young and has not shot the 3 ball as well as of late either. The reliance on a guy like Wiggins, who's best served as a tertiary option and is having to do more than he's probably comfortable with in a new system as well. It's just not enough. You know what I mean? You expect better from the Miami Heat, but I guess trading Jimmy Butler, like, that's an impactful move. I mean, it absolutely is. I think Jimmy is proving how valuable he still is with the Warriors right now and their resurgence. And on the other hand, the Heat, who I think had designs on still being pretty competitive post Jimmy Butler, just are underperforming. And they're just not playing consistently high enough level basketball. And that's not to say that that can't change, but as of right now, it hasn't, and it hasn't for a while. And if I was a Heat fan, I would be extremely concerned about the future of this core. Maybe not extremely concerned, but I'd be realistically concerned, because I just don't think there is a pathway, unless they get extremely lucky in the draft or something along those lines, to competing with top teams in the East, which is always the goal. Like, I don't see the path for them, barring Kel'el Ware, or just turning into an all-star caliber big, which is possible, I guess, but without him truly turning into like a number 1, number 2 guy, I don't see the path for this current core getting to the point where they can compete against teams like Boston and Cleveland and the Knicks and OKC and a variety of other teams around the league. They're just stuck in the middle right now, and they've had a lot of success over the past decade and a half, really the last 2 decades. They've kind of always had success to a certain extent, but this feels like an iteration of the Heat where mediocrity could very easily become the new norm, and I think there have to be moves made to prevent that from happening. Now, Wiggins still has a couple of years on his deal. His contract will be valuable. I'm sure there's a chance they'll try to move that in the future. In terms of draft pick stuff, they always have the possibility of getting a good pick, especially if they were to fall into the lottery. But as of right now, despite having the 11th worst record in basketball, if they make the playoffs, that will change things for their lottery odds anyway. And realistically, you're looking at a team that even if they do wind up somehow in the lottery, they're looking at a less than 10% chance at a top 4 pick. Probably not going to be able to add that impact guy through the draft either. And with the core they have, there's not a path for me for them to being bad enough to get a really good draft pick. And I'm not sure they're going to be good enough to attract an elite level free agent, make the right move to really reassess and re-put themselves in position for contention. I'm struggling to see the pathway right now for this Heat team to be sustainable at a high level long term whatsoever. So with that being said, at the end of the day, that is just my opinion. You do not have to agree with me, but I am not extremely impressed recently with the Heat, and I'm interested to see if things turn around, but they just look kind of bleak. So I hope y'all did enjoy the video. If you did, make sure you hit that like button, leave a comment, and subscribe. I'll be back with more NBA content very, very soon. I appreciate y'all. Peace.